Brains. Today with us we have Mr. Vikas Anand,
who is a VP at Revature.
and he is also a career coach. You've worked with so many big companies. So we would like to explore your background first.
My native place is in Patna. I was a chemistry graduate. I cracked my MBA. I came here in Bengaluru.
So tell me about your company.
Revature.
So Revature is Washington DC based company, and we are into a business called hire, train and deploy of the entry level talent. So what we do as Revature is we have tied up with more than 250 colleges across India. Numbers is still growing, and what we do is we do something called as a pre-employment program, free of cost. Anybody can join.
What would be your advice to the aspiring startups or entrepreneurs?
My biggest worry for startups, a lot of organizations, they spend a lot of money on product development, improvisation, marketing, but the go-to market is something which I feel is missing. So that is one piece of advice for the founders and startups.
And last advice for students, how they can build their career.
First of all, stop making reels. You should do that, but try to think beyond what.
So welcome to another chapter of Built on Brains. Today with us we have Mr. Vikas Anand,
Who is a VP at Revature.
and he is also a career coach. So I welcome you, Mr. Vikas, on this podcast, and I hope a lot of students will learn a lot of good things from you, and also we'll discuss something on GCC as well that you're part of. So I welcome you, sir.
Sure. Thank you so much, Sunit, for having me here.
Yes. So starting with your background, can you just brief me about your background, because you've worked with so many big companies.
Right.
So we would like to explore your background first.
Sure. So, my native place is in Patna,
Okay.
and I was preparing for my MBA in 2003-4 duration, and that is when Airtel happened by just fluke.
Okay.
There was some kind of a campus drive, and Airtel was trying to compete with Reliance in those days when Reliance was having its 500 rupee mobile offer. Airtel was trying to beat that offer with something called as a handset bundle offer, in which a similar kind of a handset would be provided, a CDMA access, code division multiple access model, and they wanted to compete against Reliance, even though it was a very, very difficult strategy, but they wanted to do it. So they were looking for some young enthusiastic guys who would probably be operating at a part-time model. Okay. And earn some money and then try to take this thing to the larger corporate. So their idea was that Reliance was already in the market for the consumers. Why can't we try to take an enterprise route? Okay. So that is where somehow through some connections I got to hear about this. I thought maybe some good pocket money or something. I went there and thankfully I was selected, and the way it happened after that, but they sent me for a very strong training. Post-training, I was selling this to multiple people, distributors, lot of corporates there. And then I realized that sales, marketing, customer-oriented work, strategizing, go-to-market, and that was something which was inbuilt in me.
Okay.
And I was a hardcore science student. So look at the irony there. Okay. So I was a chemistry graduate.
Okay.
And I had all my inclinations towards chemistry, and then suddenly this happened.
Okay.
And when I was doing this, I actually felt good about it. And then I also felt that there is a different kind of a rush that you have in your mind as an adrenaline, that you beat a competitor in their own turf with certain kind of a good strategy that you would have made. So we were beating Reliance at least in the corporate game. So that is how in my hometown I started doing this. So Airtel happened by just fluke. I was not looking forward to it. But then slowly I cracked my MBA. I came here in Bangalore, joined Christ University. Just got awarded as a best leader award from Christ University last week. So
great. Congratulations for that.
Thank you. Just kind of kept on happening good from there. Then I joined as a campus placement to Metro Cash and Carry, which is an international brand, and it is into retail. But then retail was not something which I was looking out personally, but because campus placement had happened, so I had to kind of take that as an advantage, build the career from there. But I knew the world was shifting towards internet. So from there, I moved to two companies, Times of India and Hindustan Times, who were investing heavily in their internet division, the timesofIndia.com, the IndiaTimes.com. Then HT had their own livemint.com, the finance paper, the HindustanTimes.com, then Shine.com, their job portal. So all these .coms were in the rush during that time. So I shifted my gear to them, and I worked for approximately 7.5 years in HT and Times of India combined. And I kind of gained a very good understanding about the overall internet as a space and plus media as a business. But then one thing was very clear, in all this domain, I was targeting mostly the talent.
Uh-huh.
So if I was selling a solution, it was more like a job portal and it was more like a talent solution through this internet space. So the talent part was always there. The recruitment part was always there. That talent branding part was always there. Some kind of a talent spacing was always there in my entire career.
Okay.
2016, I realized that internet was one area which I had already gained enough experience. Now there was a startup world which was coming into play, and then there was a lot of software and technology coming into the play. 2016, I joined HackerEarth. It's a great technology company, startup out of Bangalore. Now they are shifted to US.
Okay.
But they're doing extremely well. So I've been there for 2.5 years. Then I came to Simplilearn. The EdTech journey started from there. HackerEarth was a software platform for assessments. Simplilearn was more from assessment. It was more like a learning. You just do not assess, you learn also of what is the skill gap. And then NIIT happened. During that phase, GCCs were like the top of the chart. So everybody wanted to do something in GCC. So even in Simplilearn, I was targeting GCCs as a business. But in NIIT, I full-fledged managed GCC as a business unit. For 4 years, I was managing GCC as a business unit, wherein I was taking NIIT solutions in terms of their training solutions, in terms of their overall employee solutions to the GCCs. The Gen AI, the new model that had come, I was the one who was pioneered this to the GCCs in NIIT. And now, the last 1.5 years, I am managing Revature's India business. So Revature is a Washington DC based company, and they are into similar kind of a space, but they are into hire, train and deploy. They have all the entire gamut into play. So I have my experience in training, I had my experience in hiring, I had my experience in technology. So a technology domain, hire, train and then deploy is something which I am taking care of for the entire India now for Revature. This is a brief outline.
Okay.
I don't know how much time did I take, but
Fantastic, actually, coming from a science background, then getting into management, and then now you into career development as well.
yeah.
So was there anything that you liked about career development, that is the reason you came into this domain, or it was again by a chance like MBA?
No. It was something, again, a small story around this. So with this entire talent management space in which I have been operating, one thing which I have realized is, in the days of Times Jobs, we used to launch something called as a job fair. So in the job fair, there are a lot of people, especially the BPO job seekers, they queue up in heated sun. They stand for small interviews for a salary bracket of, let's say, 15,000 to 20,000 rupees. So when I used to see that, and I myself was part of organizing that entire job fair. So we used to organize big job fairs across country. In Bangalore region, I was the one who was getting a lot of sponsorship for those job fairs also. So that was the area in which I felt like I should do something, because there were a lot of candidates who were deserving, but probably they did not know how to crack an interview. Also, there are people who were doing very good in something else, but just because they were looking desperate into some kind of a job, they came there and they wanted to appear for an interview. So the right guidance was missing, the right approach was missing, and sometimes the skill was not matching to intent, or the intent was not matching to the skill. So in all of those domains, I felt like I could probably do some kind of a guiding light. So that was in 2010 itself. So I kind of pro bono, I updated my LinkedIn. Anybody looking for a job, I'm here to support and help. So on a daily basis, some reactions used to come. At the moment, I have to kind of keep my LinkedIn dormant for some time.
Overload ho gaya.
Yeah. There are times that I see that morning I wake up, 200 to 500 kind of messages would be there, and very difficult for me to reply in my busy schedule. So I on and off keep doing that. But yeah, largely I have been doing that. And I have also got associated to an academy in 2022. In which I have trained people into sales, marketing and customer support skills for approximately 14 batches. So they were running these batches from an academy called Relevel. There was a platform for Relevel wherein they got people and they kind of trained them to finally get them placed. So that was something which was matching to me. So I did that for 1.5 years. So that was also a great chapter that I was associated during the weekends. So that is something which I also be part of.
That's how you developed interest in this.
Yes. So.
Because as per my experience, and many entrepreneurs have shared their experience, that finding a right candidate in India is hell lot of difficult. Actually, it's so difficult that you end up recruiting, interviewing 400 people and getting 1 or 2 people out of it who are really relevant. So what could be the reason for this? In spite of having a big population.
Nice. I think you touched upon the very right question, and this is something which I keep asking and improvising myself also. So what I have realized is that there is something called as a skill gap in which either people have the subject matter expertise. So let's say if I'm an engineer, I'm just giving an engineering example, I can give any other example also. If I'm an engineer, I will have that subject matter expertise very well. Maybe I have done my engineering really well. I have learnt my art of entire studies, and now when it comes to the application part, I have a miss there. And now the reason is because the academia is not as great in execution as they are in delivering. So there are a lot of people who will come to the class, brilliant teachers. The teachers coming and they are trying to make you learn something which you can reproduce in the exam paper is what I have understood. Yeah. Now that practical exposure is missing, and also the intention of the teaching from the teacher side and the student side, the take of the teaching is that I'll get a job someday. Now that itself curtails your learning abilities and your practical abilities. You start thinking, if Infosys will come to campus, these questions might be relevant. So I'll learn this question, so it will go there. Now, what happens if Infosys do not select you? Because there are massive selections going on, massive rejections going on. So I think the skill itself is not in totality. The practical part is, a lot of practical part is missing. So that's one part. Second part is that there is a mismatch between the subject matter expertise and the communication abilities, the soft skills. So I may be a brilliant engineer. Again, I'm giving an engineering example. Let's say, for that matter, a doctor. I may be a brilliant doctor, but if I'm not able to communicate well, ask right questions, deliver the right explanations, nobody will like me as an employee. So let's say if I go to a doctor and I say that I have so and so problem, if he's not been able to make me understand what's going on or understand well from me, even though he can write me a good medicine which can have work me, but somewhere I will not like that doctor as an individual, so I'll not go to him again. So that is where I think the soft skill part come into a bigger picture, wherein your communication along with your skills or along with your hard skills, or you say your overall subject matter expertise become very, very important. So these two areas, nobody has these two areas corrected most of the time.
True.
And if somebody has both these areas corrected, then they do not know where to go. So there is a lot of ambiguity, especially in India. We are into a big time of a chaos of a cosmos.
India is always been in the chaos, actually.
So if you see a lot of news coming about semiconductor industry being pushed, Assam government also has set up a huge semiconductor farm. Gujarat government has done. Now, if I ask anybody, and even the viewers listening to us, how do you know, how can you get involved into a semiconductor industry? Being an engineer, being a non-engineer, being probably just a technician, whatever. Is anybody having an idea? Semiconductor, so much of a rush going on. But then somebody will come who will be a pro-government, who will say that, oh, there is government website, it will do everything. You go to a government website, after 10 visits, it crashes down. Most of the time. So I think there is a need for somebody who could actually be a consultant and who can solve these questions for you. The person comes, he says that, hey, I'm an engineer, I'm not getting a job. I said, there is so much of a rush happening in semiconductor. Why can't you upskill yourself for 6 months? Do something in chip design. Maybe the chip design is something which is the area of your interest. Now, he would have learned chip design in his engineering days, but then he suddenly realizes chip design, what is the scope there in chip design? I thought only IT companies are giving jobs. So that is where the gap is.
Right.
So awareness itself is missing. India, if you look at, so many things are happening. It's not that government is not taking initiative, but still there is a gap. Still people do not know how to go and where to go about. So that is the area where I try to be in good support to them.
Okay, and there is also, I see a lack of attitude actually that is there in the upcoming generation, the right attitude. So how do you define the right attitude? Is it really important to secure a good job? What's your perspective on this?
Yep. Difficult question, to be very honest. So I typically, in an interview, I try to understand, there are 3-4 things about why somebody needs a job. That why question automatically gives me the right attitude of the person, whether he or she has that kind of an attitude or not, which can make him successful in the job or not. So there are people who have ambitions, who will be very ambitious in their answers. There are people who are like very, just like, I need a job because I have done a certain degree and course, I'm suitable for it. So there are some people who are demanding. The right audience or the right attitude is that kind of an individual, in my opinion, which I usually have seen working out for me, is that they always cross back the question to you in terms of understanding that, hey, I want this job because I am this and this, but I really want you to tell me whether this is suitable for my kind of an ambition or not, because I want to grow to, let's say, a manager or people manager in 3-4 years of time. So the people who actually cross back the questions to you or counter question to you on your question of their intent are the people who have the right attitude for working. This is one small trick of the trade that I have developed over a period of time. But still, I would say I'm still successful maybe 7-8 out of 10 times. There are 2 times I may also fail. So there are people who are very good interview materials, but then when they come on board, I mean, there are differences. But I'm lucky enough, 7%, 70%, 80% is a good ratio in my opinion.
That's a really good ratio, because I would like to share one of my experience where we were recruiting a marketing person, and I don't know, the questions were prototype questions, obvious questions, but when we interviewed the person, was damn fluent, very excellent in answering, and when we put the person on job, it was a chaos actually. Do you want to address how to address this kind of situations?
So actually, there is a 9x9 grid matrix, but the podcast will go for 3 hours. Usually we try to address that into a management scale of 9x9 grid matrix. But I'll tell you something. There are 2-3 instances that has happened, and I'll tell you how I have tried to work upon it. See, anybody can do a mistake, okay? But then a repeated mistake of the similar nature is a crime, and it is something that cannot be pardoned. So what I try to do is, I try to follow that old Mahabharata story in which Krishna actually was forgiving 100 sins, but for 101 sin he would not forget and not forgive. So what I tend to do is, there are certain things which are my no-no zones. So for instance, you may be a bad performer. Okay, let me not use that word. Okay, you may not be a good performer, but if you are obedient, if you do not show any insubordination, if you are well on time, punctual, if you are following what the organization's laid rules, regulations and values and cultures are, which we usually tell in the very beginning itself. If these things are exhibited, then I believe that the performance is just maybe another corner of the road, or maybe next corner of the road. It's just little mile extra push. Few people are unlucky. Few people have little bit of additional skill settlement that they need to do, which I can again support them to do. So I'll keep helping them and supporting them. But if these matrices are missing, especially people show that kind of an insubordination, 6 o'clock I will not be available. Okay, fine. Nobody is asking you to do that. But then that way of you putting it back to me as somebody that, how dare you call me at 6:30? You may very politely tell me, sir, I have my some personal life. Can we finish something at 6:30? I'll mind it. I will not mind it. But the way you put it across to me, it kind of shows me the signal. So the way it comes to you, either from the perspective of timeline or from the perspective of the values, there are few people who are perpetual gossipers. You got how much increment you got. So they keep talking about it. The boss likes you so much, now he'll give you that kind of an increment. These things are toxic. So then 1 or 2 instances, we'll go out for a small coffee smoke break and we'll tell them, boss, this is not something acceptable. I heard you doing that. Who told you, sir? I heard. Nobody told me. I heard. Okay, sir. Couple of times, 3 times, 4 times, then I have to kind of call them and say that, see, there is a way, and if this has to be continue one more time, and I think we'll have to part ways. So this is typically the generic way of doing things. So I think performance, I don't think I ever take a call on performance. I'm not the person who actually do that. I believe performance is 50% the personal skill and 50% my guidance. So why not my guidance first? I have to make it 50%. I'll start giving more attention there. So that way, I think I kind of secure things.
That's fantastic to know, because I think so most of the people who hire will definitely learn a lot of things from this, because company is made of people. If you have right people, I think so you will grow faster. If you don't have right people, maybe you will end up just managing the team perpetually.
Right. That's how. Yeah.
So tell me about your company,
Revature.
what exactly it is, what it does.
Sure. So thanks for bringing that question, because I was waiting for that question to come in. So Revature is Washington DC based company, and we are into a business called hire, train and deploy of the entry level talent. So India has a very strong technology talent, So is with US. So we started off in US and now we have spun off in India also. I manage the India business. I have my leaders they're based out of US, so they manage the US part. So how it works out is that there are plenty of engineering colleges and there are so many engineering grads that keep coming out, but the organizations actually look for a finished product rather than an academic product to come and join their systems.
Okay.
So if I have an engineering degree and if I come out and if I join you basis certain interview and certain assessments, that will not justify if I am put in front of a client project. So typically there is a good amount of work that is needed for that individual to take that skill out from that academics to make them a job skill. So what we do as Revature is we have tied up with more than 250 colleges across India. Numbers is still growing, and we have a lot of tie-ups. And what we do is we do something called as a pre-employment program, free of cost.
Free of
cost.
That's interesting. So anyone can join?
Anybody can join. It's a complete free of cost pre-employment program. You go to Revature, you fill in your data and details. Somebody will call you. They will enroll you for a pre-employment program. But there is a small assessment that you have to do. It's a small, attitude, aptitude, and skills check, communication check that we do.
Can we add that in the description?
Yes, we can do that. We can do that. And the moment you get that pre-employment program, and final year students, even post-final year students can do that. Now, what does that do is that pre-employment program is typically that kind of a program which levels up your entire learning knowledge. From whatever you would have learned, they will concretize that entire learning. So if let's say you have learned, let's say Java as a programming, we will ensure that we will train you so well that all your basics are completely clear. So from the engineering standpoint, you are not just an engineer, you are a level up from that engineering crowd that would have already been competing in the market.
Okay.
Now, there is a question, why a free of cost? What is the business model here? Because we make this as our talent pipeline. This is where we source people from. So we don't want a commercialized talent pipeline, and we don't want to burden any individual who would have already been paying for your different portals, Coursera's and plural sites of the world, and so many other portals that are available. People keep learning through them. So we have made this a little bit different. And what advantage a student get beyond the learning and the skills is they have an opportunity to be showcased to the potential employers whom we are tied up with. So another part of the work of our India business is that we go out to large IT companies, the GCCs, and ask them if they would be looking to hire freshers who are trained by us or who have a level of training from what their campuses would be. Then what we do is, the moment somebody has a demand, let's say they said, yeah, we're looking for hire 30 people, 20 people. So what we do is we go back and we check the exact skill criteria what somebody is looking out for. So skill criteria could be, let's say 60% throughout. Skill criteria could be somebody who has some kind of a project which is matching to what we do as a business. So any of those could be skill criteria. And then we present a certain number of candidates, a surplus number. Let's say a 30, we'll present, let's say 100 candidates to you. Now in that 100 candidates, you may look at the CVs and then we give you a chance to interview them. Once you interview them, you can check their basic skills, whether that is exactly matching to your skills need or not. Once you do that, we again ask you to do a surplus selection than your demand, which is, let's say if there is a 30 selection, we ask you, let's say you do selection of, let's say 50 or 60 odd. And then what we do is we put them into a cohort and we do a custom training, which is exactly role aligned to what the client is looking out for. So there is a second round of training. One pre-training that has already happened from the pre-employment program, which everybody is going through. Now these are pre-selected candidates, not the final selected candidates. I am training them on making them job deployable on the week one itself. So when they are into my system, in my ecosystem, there is a custom training. The training curriculum gets discussed between Revature, my organization, and the prospective employer. And we sign an agreement that this curriculum looks exactly matching to what a typical employee in my company will do. So now that custom training is like very, very rigorous. It's a lab-based training. It's like a simulated training. You sit, you actually do, and we grill you for, let's say, 4 weeks to 8 weeks of time. And then the final product which comes out is again put to a final evaluation. So let's say out of 50, maybe 40 people can come out as a graduate. 10 people may not be able to make it out. So that 40 people would be put to the client, and the client would interview them, and then the final interview criteria happens, and your 30 fulfillment can be done through that 40 number. And in this one, again, unique phase is, while we have not charged the client so far, Now we have not charged the student so far. We rather pay a stipend to the student to motivate them, because they would have come from different parts of the country to attain that in-person training in certain premise that we would have created. So small stipend amount is also given to them.
That's great.
So that way we kind of manage this entire pool, and that's also a motivation for our students to kind of be into a job-oriented kind of a learning. Then the final placements happen. Then the final placements, we charge the customers about the number of placements, only the successful number of placements.
Okay. It seems to be a very difficult and challenging thing to do, because my mind is now wondering, in what segments do you work?
In fact, a very valid question here. So anybody looking for hiring an engineer who is well trained, and let me put it across this way. Our trained engineers are those who are equivalent to 2 to 3 year experienced engineers in an organization, because our training is so rigorous. And the way we make them work in the projects is like that.
Great.
So anybody having 0 to 3 year, 0 to 4 year kind of a technical requirement can actually hire from here. But largely the people who hire from us are your system integrators, your IT services companies, and your GCCs. These are the two sectors which are predominantly hiring.
So you're talking about GCC. It may be also confusing that it is GCC countries. So can you just elaborate more what exactly GCC means?
Right. Yeah. In fact, a lot of people during this war situation are calling me and they said, "Hey, how is your business going on? GCC countries are on fire." I said, "So that is GCC countries Gulf Council."
Yeah, right.
Okay. Now here, what I am talking about is the global capability centers.
Okay.
Now, global capability centers, erstwhile global in-house centers.
Okay.
Erstwhile captive centers.
Okay.
So I'll take you back to the era of 1998 to 2002. That was the 4-5 year period in which India had seen a mushrooming of BPOs call centers in India, especially the NCR zone, Bombay, Bangalore, everywhere. Now, what it was to happen is you would have heard two names there. Whosoever have worked in the BPO center, either the center was called as a domestic center or an international center or a captive center. Okay, so domestic center was typically center which was selling or catering to domestic clients, while international was something like you are selling or catering to international clients beyond Indian borders. And in the international thing itself, there were certain BPOs which were captive centers, which the original organization based out of US, UK, Canada, Japan, they would have set up their own base in India.
Okay.
And they would have hired people on their own payrolls. And they would be doing the same work which any outsourced company would be doing them for. So that was the first word of captive center that came into India. Now from there this evolution happened. So what happened was, when this captive center came in India, people were talking as if Indians can only speak English and we can use their English speaking skills to do some kind of a sales, marketing, customer support and success kind of a job. That was the initial mindset. Then they slowly realized, no, the country has a lot of technical minds also. So then they started giving us a lot of tech support work, which was like your IT support, the help desk, those kind of a work started coming in from there. Now, at that point of time also, they did not call it as an in-house center. They used to call it as a captive center only. Slowly, with advent of time, this kind of a metamorphosed and a lot of companies started coming in, which started setting up their own in-house center, which is like an extended arm, my own organization, and I'll set up my own arm there in Indian diaspora, or let's say anywhere else. But that particular part would be owned by us. And government was giving a lot of incentives in terms of setting up in the SEZ, wherein their tax liabilities would be lesser. So that way, a lot of influx started happening of the organization, which were a little bit of a cost conscious also, because they understood that with this outsourcing thing, it is a temporary method and a lot of cost is going there. I can control my own cost and I can control my own quality if the things are in my hand. So people thought of creating their own capability centers here. Now that was the time this in-house center slowly started being called as a capability centers, when they actually started adding to the capability of the organization in terms of product development, in terms of their overall software overhaul that they were doing, or in terms of any other services in the automotive space. If you look at a lot of R&D services came to India. So that was the time, somewhere around 2012 to 2016, people started naming this word from GICs to GCCs. Finally, around, I think 2018-19, this GCC word became prominent. Now, I think this has become stable. So many names came through the GICs, then the captive centers. But now I think the GCC name has become stable.
Okay.
In between, people started calling something called as the innovation center. So in the GCC space, we are an innovation center or we are an R&D center. But to the benefit of the audience, let me tell you, the GCC as an unit can be divided broadly into three components. One is your ER&D space, your engineering, research and development space. That is roughly around 44% of the business of the overall GCC setup, which is, like, say, at the moment, if you look at Zinov's report, it says around 1900 GCCs in India. So of that 1900, around 44% of them would be in the ER&D space, engineering R&D space. Now, there is another good 40% of that, or 38-40% of that, which are into BPM space. Now, remember that BPM is the same old BPO call center space, but now it has a little extended legacy. In that BPM space, now we have something called as a shared services also, which are like HR, finance role also, which are coming up here. So that is also a good number. So in fact, a lot of your banks in India, a lot of your GCC banks in India, good 100 plus GCC banks are there in India. They are operating into this model in which there is a very large chunk of BPM services which is going on, which is business process management services. And then there is 20-25%, which is your typical troubleshooting IT services. Those are like IT is as simple as that. Now, this is the rough fragmentation of a GCC. If you are a core technology person, very hardcore technology person, you should look for GCCs which are operating into ER&D space. If you are a technology person, you want a role into IT, you are not too core into like product development, innovation, R&D kind of stuff, then the IT part of the businesses can really be of good help to you. And likewise, if there are people who are, let's say, non-technical and still they want to get leverage of GCC ecosystem, because they pay good salaries as compared to Indian counterparts, they pay very good salaries. And the average salary in GCC, as I was reading a report while coming here, was something around 19 lakh rupees. So 19 lakh rupees is an average salary which they are paying even to a non-technical person. So somebody who was my student, I remember 2-3 years ago, in Pune, UBS Bank offered him a 21 lakh rupee package while he was working in an edtech company at a 7 lakh rupee package. But he's into a different role. Yeah, he's into a data role. So that data role is something which he has to kind of learn a little bit more, even though it is a non-technical role, but that even Excel or even, let's say, Tableau or a Power BI, whatever he is doing is actually not a core technical job. It's just a kind of a back-end services, but the salary bracket of 21 lakh rupees is a great bracket. So that is something which really helps. Yeah.
Okay. So as you mentioned, you're developing the people who can be fit for the job. So who are the companies that can approach you for this kind of services?
Sure.
And what are the problems that you can solve for them?
Sure. So when we say the entry level talent, we are open to mostly technology companies only, but then we also are getting a lot of requirement from Indian banks which are trying to modernize themselves and they are trying to get into technical space even better. So if you look at one of the Indian setups in which technology has been taken from its root and has been developed into many manifestations is your fintech space, the financial technology space. So we are working with some top banks, Indian banks here. We are trying to build capability for them in terms of them, forming a group of people who can be AI engineers, who can be the Gen AI specialists, who can really help them leverage the power of AI into making something little bigger as a vision what the company is looking out for. So we are working on some very good projects and in the interest of NDA, I can't name them, but there are a lot of big companies which are working for us. But anybody in the IT space looking to solve their 0 to 3 year or 0 to 4 year talent, I think we are open for them and we do good business with them.
And you also work for Indian companies as well?
Yes. So a lot of Indian companies we are working with currently.
And students, basically software and computer engineers you look for?
Right. So that is the sweet area. We have not so far got into different other fields of technology, or maybe not technology as a word, maybe engineering as a word. But largely our model itself is that we are technology trainers ourselves. So we are a bunch of technology folks and we understand that technology can create a world of difference in terms of overall productivity that somebody can bring onto. So we have programs like, no coders to coders. Those are kind of programs also we have been, we have not done coding at all, but We will ensure we'll take some time. It will not happen overnight.
Right.
We'll take some time, but then we can actually make you a good coder. From the very basic, we can start and we can take you into your entire database and algorithm structures, and we can figure that out for you.
Okay, that's great. That's
Thanks.
great. So, because this problem is very prevalent in India. Last time I was talking to one of the companies who established EV manufacturing in India. When they established it, there were no engineers to hire. Actually, they started building their centers in few colleges where they were also trained on
Okay.
EVs.
Okay.
So similar kind of problems, I guess.
I agree.
Right. That's great. So, what exactly is your role in your company?
So largely, I am responsible for bringing the new business to the organization and also managing the old relationships. This is a very broad way of understanding, but then there is a lot of operational element also comes into the play. So if you look at my profile, it's more like a revenue operations role.
Right.
So when I say operations, it's not just about picking up an order from somebody and say, hey, you need 200 engineers, please come here, and we'll give you that. So a lot of training, a lot of sourcing, a lot of recruitment. And the overall coordination, all of that goes into the play. So it's like holistic management of the entire pool that I do. But largely, if you look at the core area that I would like to get associated with myself is to understand the ecosystem where the talent gap is, talking to the right person, understanding if we could add value to them, bring them on board, serve that relationship. So I work with almost all the top level CXOs in the country in terms of understanding their skill gap, connecting with them, knowing with them, doing different interactions to finally understand if there is a way that we can approach together and work this out. And then the operations team takes over, and then I'll be part of the operations team in all the discussions so that I can actually streamline the process what I have signed with them. So whatever has been agreed upon as an SLA, as an SOW, I try to work that out together. So yeah, so this is the entire process of mine. Yeah.
Okay. So you are also a career coach. So having such a big job profile which keeps you busy, how do you manage this career coaching and what exactly you do? Can you just elaborate on that?
Yeah, so again, this is something very close to my heart, and I always feel that you have to give back to the community where you belong to. So I've always been into situations wherein I have taken tough calls. I have sometimes taken calls which did not turn out to be good. And I always feel that there has to be some kind of a guru in your life which can really lead your way. And especially corporate is a jungle. If you come here, you really need somebody who can guide you. What next for you? What you should do? There are people who get stuck. There are people who get redundant. There are people who don't know what is the next step. There are people who don't even know the first step. They are out of the college and they don't know the first step. There are few people who just need a job. They don't know what kind of a job. I just need a job. So I think a guidance is necessary. A guru has to be there for them. And I take that as a pride that it just kind of was something that happened at home for me. I have mentored and coached few of my relatives, cousins, and those people who used to be juniors to me and used to come. My advisors worked for them. And my way of breaking down a problem statement and also breaking down the skill and the strength of the individual and then trying to make a mix and match and then suggesting something has really helped. And now with that attitude, it has grown over a period of time. So now I have developed that skill that I won't react immediately if somebody comes with one problem statement, because there will be multiple fold of layers that needs to be unearthed before something could be spoken and suggested to the person. So what I typically do is I listen, sometimes 15-20 minutes of listening, and then I take my notes and then I ask questions, maybe an hour or so, sometimes 2. And sometimes there are people who just do not want to leave me because they want them to have that final outcome come to them. So there are people who are associated with me, I don't know, for maybe 6-7 months, they have got a new job, but still they want to be with me because now when they have got a new job, the problem is something different, that how to perform, how to manage a boss. There is a politics going on there. How do I do that? So there are people who are consistently with me, and time is of course scarce. So I usually keep these activities during my Saturdays and Sundays. And I strictly advise people to please do not bother me in my work hours, even though there are some phone calls which keep coming. But yeah, largely Saturday and Sunday, I am available from 11 o'clock to 3 o'clock kind of a time, both days. So as many calls I can and as many emails I can respond, I do that. So that's one area that is close to my heart. And I'm building upon it. I think I'm giving back to the community in a good way.
Who could approach you to get your guidance on
Yeah, so I
career
actually made some 14, 15 questions around that
Okay.
who can actually approach me. But I'll try to, for the sake of the audience.
In a broader sense, if you
Yeah,
can just
yeah,
elaborate.
Right. Anything around careers, okay,
Uh-huh.
is something which I can help of. Even though my exact background may not be the same of what somebody might be looking into for. So somebody, let's say, I do not belong to a medical field, okay, or I do not belong to a manufacturing industry, or I do not belong to, let's say, insurance as a business, but I have a fair bit of understanding about how the job market works and how somebody can enter into that space, exit that space, change that space. In case I'm stuck in a banking job, I am like too good, too bad for that, do not want to be here. What can I do next? So if you are stuck somewhere in part of your life, you are not able to start yourself and do not have a job at all, or you are currently into a job, you want to excel into that job, or you want to move out of that role and try to do something of your own, all of these 3-4 situations, I think people reach out to me. These are broader ones that people reach out to me.
Because I have seen more of my friends and colleagues at the age of 40, 45. It's like a midlife crisis in their jobs as well.
Yeah. I have few people with me.
Where they feel that they are stuck
Yeah.
and they are not able to do what they like to do.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the one sector that also you cater to.
Right. So I'll tell you one very recent example that we cater to that. So now I have got few people around with me. So I also mentor and coach startups.
Okay.
So there are 2 startups I want to name them. One is Connectly. It is run by a brilliant student of mine whom I had taught in my Unacademy days. 28, 29 years of age. I'm sorry, Neeraj, if I'm giving a wrong age of yours. But Neeraj is a wonderful character. So he manages the team, which is 25 years to 50 years.
Okay.
Okay.
Wide range.
Yeah, quite rich. He can get work done from anybody. Okay, and he has his unique style of getting work done. Sometimes he's nasty, sometimes he's very good. So I have learned a lot of things from him. He's approximately 20 years younger than me, but then I learned a lot of things from him. Largely, that is how Connectly operates. So what is Connectly? Connectly is basically, it started with as a LinkedIn consultation platform. Anything that you want to do on LinkedIn, anything. You want a branding, employer branding, you want a job, whatever you want to do, you get out of LinkedIn. So lot of LinkedIn experts are there in Connectly. Okay, it started from there. Now it has become a full-fledged social marketing company in which you can rest assured that if you are on social media, Connectly can take you to places in a very genuine way and with the least of the investments possible. I have seen people growing, a chartered accountant firm in Delhi. I have seen that firm growing from maybe 1 or 2 leads to maybe 15, 20 leads in a month. So that's like 15x growth. So these guys are doing wonderful job there. Okay. So what I have seen is that this 40 to 50-year-old kind of a companies that you really, individuals or employees that you see, I have seen them working in the startups also. I have seen them working in large organizations also. They're always dissatisfied with something. So the way they are is that they would have lived their life in a certain way. Now the world is changing very fast.
Very fast, right?
Okay. Few of them are good in adaptation. They would have joined different programs of AI, learned few skills and upgraded themselves. They are in the sync. They are little less disturbed with the situations. But most of the people in that domain, I think the problem lies with either they are facing a challenge in which they have joined a startup and they are reporting to somebody 20 years younger.
Junior, right.
Okay. So
That's
they feel like
ego
what is
problem.
going on? Yeah. So I usually suggest them that either you take that mindset out, number one, because it's not the age which is determining somebody of what the person should be doing. So it is about somebody who knows that art better than you is the person whom you are reporting to. So that's the small difference that you may bring in. And if not, then I usually suggest those people to take a plunge into doing something of your own. Even if not starting a startup, being self-employed is good. You can act as a consultant. You can, and I know the art of how a consultation works. You can use your expertise into your domain and try to pull in clients or try to pull in expertise and then help people deliver better results and outputs. So usually when people come from that age and genre, we usually suggest them into that area. But then it is very, very generic and specific.
Because it's very hard to leave a job which is good paying them.
Right.
Monthly expenses are well taken care,
Right.
and diving into something that is very unpredictable.
Right. It
That
is
is where people
the
get
real
stuck.
challenge. Your job is going on. Then how
There are loans nowadays, actually.
Yeah. So yeah, of course, I mean, suggesting something without understanding this is, again, as I said, is very generic statement that I made. But yeah, largely entering into startup or doing something of your own, it revolves around. I don't know. I won't use the word moonlighting here, but I usually have seen people doing a partial day of their work towards the end, maybe after 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, doing something which can start giving them some returns. And through that, they start building. And once that base is sufficient enough to sustain, they slowly migrate. So that is one area also that I operate. I think the second startup I missed to say is DataQ. It's based out of Chandigarh. The founder is Ankit Singh. He is quite stable. He is a person who is working on an excellent idea. While everybody is building product in India, everybody is doing some startup innovation, social media marketing. This person is genuinely working to get you the right appointments. So if you need an appointment with somebody, he's the one who will facilitate that appointment for you.
Great.
So it's a great go-to-market company and a great GTM product company. And they are there in business for last 6 years. And I've taken some help from them also. Of late, while coming here, I was talking to them. I suggested them few things. So they have worked with my organization Revature also, but in a smaller capacity in US. But what I have seen now is that they have grown multifold. They are working with some very large organizations and helping them secure those right meetings and appointments. I think that's a critical part of the business. When
That's true.
When anybody is able to make you sit and talk to somebody who could be your prospect, who could be your client, I think that's a wonderful idea of a business. So I think these are a couple of businesses that I wanted to kind of name.
That's great, because both of the business are into marketing domain or sales domain that we can categorize in and help in growing business. So definitely it would be good to connect with them as well.
Sure, anytime.
So startups you mentioned. So what do you have a perspective about Indian startups? There is a very a mindset that is there, or what I call it. There is a saying that Indian startups are more into fintech than into product development like China, US. So what could be the reason they are just focusing on fintech? Because it's very difficult, I can say, to find a startup who is into a product, a real product.
No, so I think I will agree with you, but then I have my huge respect for the startups. The way they have been, one, they are great job creators. If they were not there, a lot of jobs would not have been created. One, and then another part is that they are the ones who have got a lot of foreign investments. So in all of these domains, I have a huge respect for them. See, the idea is that we are a strong consumer-based economy. So that opportunity is so lucrative that you will keep seeing Blinkits and Zomatos and Zeptos of the world coming up. Because our consumption is so high on a daily basis, it is difficult to ignore an easy business. Wherein I can connect with 100 people and can straight away start growing my business on day one itself. Few people I know, there are college grads, not even fully college grad, they're still in college. They go out to different, in my locality where I stay, and I've seen those kids doing that. They go out to small shops, they ask them if they can build a website for them. And some websites would be like, how much will you take and how much will you charge? So overall cost of building domain booking and maybe development these days is all no-code platform, a low-code platform.
Correct.
So they would hardly spend maybe 2,500 on that, but they will charge you 10,000 rupees on a website. Negotiation here and there, 7,000 rupees. Okay, take it and build me a website, and free updates annually.
Great.
So these kids are making money from there. Now, the idea is why they are able to do it is that because we are a consumption-based economy. And you will see a lot of people making reels and posting it and then trying to get views out of it, YouTube videos. Now, because the consumption is so high on a daily basis, internet is almost free here. So people are driven with this thought.
Right.
Now, there is two things missing why they are not into the product as such. Even though there are wonderful products like Zoho, and I think, I don't know if I would put it up in my way. There has to be some kind of friendship with China in terms of transfer of this knowledge and skill to us. So while China has taken our martial arts and made it even better, I think we should send a lot of kids to China to study, especially the innovations that they are doing, the pace at which the innovation they're doing. I think we lack that skill because, see, as a teacher, if you go and ask the same question to a teacher, he himself, I'm sorry if any teachers are feeling offensive about it. I have seen teachers and professors, they themselves are not very innovative in their thoughts. They're very bookish. They're very literature oriented. What they have learned it well and they are passing it on to others. But since they have themselves not innovated, they have not passed on that innovation sector. So somewhere we have become that consumption and service driven economy. So we are there. So I think we really need to learn from China. We really need to have our student exchange programs wherein maybe for 6 months our students can go there and learn few things. And it's also, I want to add something, it's not also just by doing an innovation while China can innovate something, it is also something called as the early, very, very early adaptation of that innovation. Yeah. Okay, what I see in China and what I admire about China is that they're great in reverse engineering. So if today US will build a 6th generation aircraft, they will build it in maybe a year's time. They will immediately reverse engineer that and they'll build that. And they're great in understanding the technologies also. So I think those art we need to learn, and we cannot learn those art just by sitting here and trying to see how it can happen. We have to be into that ecosystem somehow. So it is in the interest of India that we need to promote this inter-college transfer of folks. And I'm sure they can, I'm sure their folks can also learn a lot of things from there. Right. If they come here, I'm sure they can really, really do good here. So yeah, I mean, brains are same. We are also quite good with our studies and understanding, but somewhere that knack of innovation is something which we can imbibe from there.
Definitely. Yeah. The only problem that I see to moving or working with China is the language barrier, because they have their engineering, their medicine, everything in Chinese.
Yeah. There are a few places which are non-Mandarin. I see some student programs. In fact, I have not researched much, so I won't comment there. But I have interacted with few students who have worked in China, and they say that for a few places they have this English speaking thing which is there in very, very few places. So maybe we can take use of that. Right. But yeah,
or we can learn Chinese. That's one easiest easiest but difficult.
Yeah, but I think I mean, even though we don't have great relationship with China, but we must not ignore around $100+ billion of trade. We cannot survive without China. China is the global supply chain boss. Right. Okay, and then beyond that, they are doing so much of a miracle in the technology and the science space. Recently, they got the vaccine done and the medicine done for the type 2 diabetes also. Okay, I mean, these are the kind of work that they are doing. We really need to kind of find a way to interact with them. Right. And if that's so, we need to kind of, we see there is always a cost of doing something. I'm sure that if you go to China for friendship, you will have to pay some cost for that. I don't know how that cost will be managed. We don't have good relations with them, but we need to learn few things from them, which they are really good at. So that's what my take is.
Definitely,
I don't know if people will like their statement or not, but I personally feel that if given a choice, I would learn something from them, which they are really good at.
I agree with you, actually. I have also spoken the same thing many times, actually. We can learn many, many things from them. The pace at that they are innovating, it's crazy, I can say. It's not high, it's crazy. Right. So, as we were talking about China, so I would like to add one more question to it. We need to improvise on a lot of things. One of them is business ethics as well. So, how do you see that actually?
Yeah, I think a good question. In fact, when it comes to especially the previous question before China, the startup question that we were asking, I think we discussed that there are a lot of jobs being created, and then startups are actually doing a lot of work in the areas which are probably not innovative, but then they're adding jobs and they're creating to the service economy for us. But is there some kind of an ethics that are being managed or that are not being managed, or is there some ethic compromises that are there? I think I will take that question into two different parts. One is business ethics as a whole, how that business is doing ethical things in the world. So I have seen instances of stealing competition data. I have a lot of startup founders who have been into my list, and I keep discussing with them, and they keep talking to me about building a great go-to market strategy for them. And they say, sir, don't worry, go to market strategy and all. I have got all the competition data, what they are doing.
Oh.
Okay, so I said, how do you do that? I said, no, we have our own way, we have our own people. So we hired somebody from the finance team of that team. So somebody from the accounting and billing team, if I hire from that team, he will know the entire data and detail, what was the deal size, what was the thing. So now, if at all, if I put it in that way, if something is not legal and you are doing that, of course, you need to definitely put a stop then and there itself. If the business itself, I think, is not going into the right direction. But if something is legal, but probably not great on moral, okay, that is where this question of ethics comes in, that how strong are you ethically doing that. So I want to put it up in a little bit of a gray area in which it depends on case to case basis. What are you doing? If, let's say, you would have taken a competition data by hiring somebody from that team, I don't know if you have been unethical or the guy who is transferring the data from the previous organization is unethical. So we really need to understand who is unethical. So that guy has no, I mean, most of the organizations will sign the contract, especially the finance team. They will have to sign a contract. They cannot just go and release data here and there. They have to be very confidential about it. But then if somebody is doing that and you are making them do, I think that's a very gray area. And you need to ask question as a founder, whether this kind of a practice you want to do, because tomorrow he may take your data and give it to somebody else also. So the ethics is, or non-ethical practice is transferable. If you do, the same person can do to you also. So largely, and as I said that, a lot of GTM discussions happen, weekend, people call me. Few founders, they openly talk about it. Few founders, they don't talk about it. But largely as a whole, I think the business practice in India, in my opinion, is very, very cutthroat. And so goes with anywhere else. I'm in touch with a lot of US folks also. They also are saying that, oh, if I get a data, why will I not use it? So that is way of doing it. I mean, you have seen the controversies around Meta, people being grilled. And how
it's everywhere, I guess.
Yeah, it's everywhere. So it's a gray area. I think it's a consciousness that you need to practice in yourself. So it's very difficult to put you into a small bracket and tell you that this was wrong and this is not wrong. So I think it's a very, very gray area of work that people operate into. But largely I have seen people, in my opinion, they refrain from doing this unless and until it's like something really needed for them to grow and survive. So then the law of survival of fittest came into the play. I have to be fittest, I have to grow myself, so they understand it a little differently. Yeah.
Very good. You rightly articulated it. It also depends on the situation.
Yeah.
And it is not country specific. It's generic.
Right. Of course.
Great to know your opinion on this. I just wanted to know, what was your one decision that changed your entire career?
I think I'll be. So there are multiple things.
Okay.
I think 2016, when I joined technology domain, started working for HackerEarth. I think that was the time I feel it's an inflection point in my career. So it's not that. So I was largely into SMB kind of a role. I moved to GCCs and enterprise kind of a role into HackerEarth, and I became very successful from there. And today, whatever I have been able to achieve, and probably I was really good at both the things, but then whatever I'm able to achieve today is because of that one inflection point that happened in my career. So I just kind of skyrocketed myself from there. So I think that one push that I did from a typical internet seller to what I was in HackerEarth as a technology or a techno-commercial individual on a leadership profile, I think that kind of completely changed the ecosystem for me and made me what I am today.
That's really great. And it was really great to understand your perspective on career, student development, the way companies are operating, startups. So what would be your advice to the aspiring startups or entrepreneurs based on their skill sets and how they can scale their business in India or globally as well?
I think go-to-market is the way. Okay. If you have a product, see, everybody believes that the product is very good, otherwise they would have not built the product. Correct. You ask any startup founder, they will say that we have the best product, nobody can solve this, we are solving this. I don't want to comment on that. I have my own reservations. So everybody has a great product, but I have felt
You
that.
can speak on that because that is more important, I guess.
Yeah, so I'll tell you. So typically, I have not seen an innovative product in my lifetime.
Okay.
Maybe I have a smaller lifetime so far, but every founder that they comes, we are solving this as a problem. I said, okay. So what people are doing is, people are doing a jugaad out of things. They're trying to amalgamate few things here and there. They're putting 5 things here and there. One Salesforce CRM was built. Now somebody will try to replicate that by saying, I'll add a Gen AI, I'll add a chatbot here. Now Salesforce will take maybe 10 minutes to understand what you have done, and they will take it off.
Correct.
Are you building something like a Salesforce of yourself? So I've not seen that happening here. I think that is where my biggest worry for startups is, and that is where I said that we need to learn from China. If needed, let's go to China to learn how they are innovating. Because see, innovation also is an art. You need to first discover what's the problem you have to solve, or what you have to disrupt. Either discover or disrupt. If there is something already existing, how do you disrupt? So that needs to be taken up, and then how do you provide a solution to that, the problem and everything. Now, people don't do that. Typically, people just try to first identify where is this market, what I can do, and how I can take out money and bring a business here. I think that is something which is not a great innovation, but yeah, I'm not taking it out and not blanket saying that nobody is innovating. Fintech itself is an innovation in India. UPI is an innovation in India. But largely, I'm saying largely. These are just 1% of the things. Largely, people don't innovate. They try to build business. They're not innovating, they're building business. Let's be brutally honest with that. So I think go-to-market is the key. And especially in India or even in the US, if you learn how to take your product to your customer through various mediums, channels, at a very minimalistic cost, and then also position your product, and I would say reposition your product, because positioning is somewhere already done in some of the forms. So if you reposition your products to the customer and then try to incite some kind of an excitement from them, I think this art is very, very important. And all of us, we try to burn a lot of meta ads and LinkedIn ads to try to do something. That's like, spraying and praying. You are just trying to feel like I'll spray everywhere, all praise will be mine. No, it doesn't work out that way. You need to be very, very clear in your strategy of how you will go to the market. I think that is one area. A lot of great IITians, I have a huge respect for them technologically, but I have seen badly missing in the GTM. If you look at, they will rely on great sales guy that they would have hired, and they would learn from their expertise to do the GTM work. But I think GTM is more than what one person can define. It's like you need to understand from the lenses of maybe 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 people, and then try to form your own GTM, and then try to validate that with a senior person who might be your sales or a marketing head, and then the person can validate if this is something which we can do. But a lot of organizations, they spend a lot of money on product development, improvisation, marketing, but the go-to market is something which I feel is missing. So that is one piece of advice for the founders and startups that maybe I can probably do.
Yeah. And last advice for students, how they can build their career, because with your expertise, I think so they can.
So there is no shortcut. First of all, stop making reels, stop making YouTube videos. So I've seen that happening. They have come to me for some kind of an advice, and they are making reels for their living. I think while it is good, I'm not saying that you should not, because it's giving you some pocket money. Why you should not? So you should do that, but try to think beyond what. I mean, see, we are a $4 trillion economy. We are aspiring to become a $10 trillion economy in the next 10 years. We will grow that way. But see, all of us have that ownership. What are we building to the nation? Okay, what are we creating for the nation? Study very, very hard. I think it's very, very important. Keep that intent right. Don't lose the focus on the core of the study that people should do. And then you may go to college, you may just learn from YouTube, it's up to you, but then study hard. Ensure that you are utilizing that study, not just by trying to be a job seeker, but trying to become a job creator. Do something in which at least you can employ 3-4 people, even at a smaller capacity. I mean, that mindset is there in a 20-21-year-old person here. Nobody can beat us. Even though we might be very poor in doing that innovation part as we were discussing, but we know we can be a good job creators in the service economy.
True.
So even at a 21-year, 22-year-old level, if you have done your subject matter well, you have studied well, if you know the art well, and then you try to do something on your own, great 3-4 people of your own team, and try to build a small business, sustain for 5-6 years, even at a small margins, I think you can do a better job. So that's what is the advice that I give.
That's great. That's great. So thank you very much for giving your time. It was really insightful to know various things actually.
Sure.
And I hope students and entrepreneurs must have learned a lot of things. So I will be giving his LinkedIn profile in the link below. You can reach out on Saturday, Sundays only.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you so much
thank
for
you,
having
thank
me
you,
here.
thank
It was
you, thank
wonderful
you.
talking to you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.